Hello everyone, this is Haxley Mods and welcome to Palworld mod building. This is my first tutorial on how to build using the rotated mod. As you can see right here around me, we're going to be using this custom style planner box, or box is, that I've come up with that you can do yourself very simply as a means to teach how to use this mod. Now, this mod assumes that you have already set up and installed the rotated mod and are able to press F4 to open the tool to get started. If you have not, just type this into Google, download the mod. The author has put in a guide on how to get it installed. It's not complicated at all. Get that set up and come on back. Now, if you have this already set up, we're going to start with a couple key points. One, I've compiled some additional information. This is my third time doing this video. The first two times, apparently, I hit the push to talk button and it cut my mic out. So this will not have just been a tutorial for you. This has been a tutorial on tutorials because this is my first one. A bit of tutorialception for all of us. So, some rules about the rotated mod. I'm not sure if it works for Game Pass users. It very well may. I do know that it does work for Steam users, but does not work while on a dedicated server. You can, however, take all of your saved data for your dedicated server, your world files, and paste them into a single player game. Use this mod to build things or even start a new world, build whatever you like, and then transfer those files back to the dedicated server, and it does work that way. Anything that you've built using this tool in single player will transfer. However, if you break something, you won't be able to fix it, but they have given us a good backup system, so you can just restore in that event. If you are hosting a game, only the host will be able to use this tool. The other people playing will technically be able to manipulate items and scale, but only they will be able to see it, and the changes will not save. However, the host's changes will save. Also, other people will have to log out of the server and back in to see any modifications you have made since they've been logged in last. So they will have to refresh themselves on the server to see any modifications that might be there. No, that's not true. If you've moved over modified files to a dedicated server, you simply log in and bam, everything's there. So let's get started here. I have some examples of some planner boxes back here. This is used 2 items. This is using 3 items. This is using 3 items. But the core of all 3 and how they're built is exactly the same, and they use the very basic core tenets of what you are going to be following when building and trying to get things lined up. Now, the game does have 2 different styles of orientation. There's world coordinates, and we're lucky enough that each item has its own coordinates as well. Now, we're going to be using mainly object coordinates because that will help us move in relation to items themselves as opposed to the square grid that the world itself is built on. Generally speaking, if you use the world grid, you'll find that your stuff shifts at strange angles, and when you move something back and forward, you don't actually get a hard back and forward. You get angles and kind of weirdness, so definitely think about that. So to get started with rotated, once you have everything installed, if you press F4, you get this really nifty menu over here. Now, how you get information in this window is through your targeting reticle. I recommend, when you're getting used to this for the first time, to use a rifle. It's just I find it can be easier to to actually get an aim on stuff as opposed to trying to do it like this and aiming wild. If you do it finite, you can really get in there. It will only target, or this mod will only target items that you have built and that your character owns. So you can't target, landscape, you can't target mountains, you can't target flowers or anything like that. You can only target buildable items. And only once the blueprint has been put down. So even if it hasn't been built yet, you can still manipulate it. But you have to have a blueprint down, or it has to already be built for this mod to work. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Each of these boxes is made out of 4 mirrors and 1 house plant. And they're all made with the same materials for the most part, not these two. These two have little details. I inset carpets on this one. And this one has the screen up at the top. I was able to inset and get just the wood trim around the top there. And this is just the same thing but squanched down. So when you're using rotate it, I recommend getting used to using the F5 function. You're going to see a yellow lock appear on whatever it is that you are targeting, and this will keep you from targeting anything else. So as you can see, I've targeted the sun, but as I move around, the information does not change, and that's going to be important going forward, because as you build stuff and it gets small and on top of each other, you don't want to move anything else, because trying to get it back into position can be rather difficult depending on where you are in your project, and it's just inconvenient. You don't really want to have to come all the way back around to it. Now we're going to be using our house plant locked on as a starting point. Now there's a lot of information to digest in our rotated box. We have 9 points of manipulation at the top and 2 movement methods and a copy and paste function. The copy and paste function is very, very handy, because you can copy all of the attributes of the item you have that you are locked onto, then be it its translation, which is its position in the world, its rotation, which is its rotation in its place, and its scale, which is of course its sizing. The important part about having all of this is you can quickly move things to where you need them and put them on the same square grid, so that lining things up becomes a lot simpler than trying to freehand it, so to speak. So let's get an example of this. First of all, we want to go into rotate. This one on the right is not the most important at the moment, but this of course rotates it around. You always want to make sure what you're working on is on a 0 rotate on these first 2, so that means it's just flat, straight up and down. You can manipulate it as you like if you're trying to put something on the slope of a ground or something like that, but a lot of the time, especially when I'm doing structural framing, I want it perfectly up and down so I can get everything squared away as I'm building. So this is off a little bit and can affect us later. So where it says method 1, set each number, you can hit tilde and you can input a custom number here. Because if I were to put 0 right here, it's not enough of a deviation for it to change to 0. I'm going to put 1 and then put 0, and that's gonna completely square that plant off. And what we want to do is we want to lift this up by going to the y-axis, which is highlighted in blue, and use the up arrow to change its position on the y-axis. Down arrow will move it down, up arrow will move it up. We want to try to match this guy just for intents and purposes here, so we're going to put it on 3192. Standard movement is in increments of 20 if it's up and down. I'm not sure what the left and right movement increments are. But I know that there's a small using Alt, there's a standard movement, and then you can move it large amounts using Shift and move. So you can have quite a bit of control over scale and position. So you can get some pretty fun results. So now that we have this guy in the air, see how this is shrunken a little bit. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go down here to scale, and we're going to use the down arrow, and this is going to move in tenths. So we're going to move this down 4, and I could move this down to 6, and this would match. This would be a 60% scale of the standard size houseplant. But because I want it to be taller in a taller plant, that means it's going to be higher up off the ground. There's going to be more weight pulling on it. It's going to be a little droopier. So we're going to go up a little bit and stretch it just a little bit. Just so. We're going to lift that a little bit there too. There we go. Right there, looks good. Now that we have it in place, if you look at the bottom left where it says method 3, copy/paste, we already have information in these fields from where I was working on something before. But as you see at the top left here, you know, -480873, etc., etc. Because I have the current copy mode on all, if I were to press C, all the information at the bottom left would match this houseplant. Alternatively, if you hit F8, you can change exactly which thing you're copying or which thing you're pasting. So I could copy or paste just the translate, just the rotate, just the scale, the rotate and scale, or all of it. And in this case, we're going to do all of it because when we paste our mirror onto this item, we want it to match the same grid so that when you move it forward and back and left and right, it matches the orientation of our center item, which is going to be this houseplant. So let's press C to copy, and you can do some halo action here if you're not sure and you really want to make sure that that stuff copied. You're going to press F5 to unlock, aim at your material that you're going to be using. We're going to press F5 to relock, and then we're going to press V. And what this has done, this has pasted all of the attributes, height, scale, rotation, everything from the houseplant to the antique wall mirror. So as far as these two items are concerned with each other, they're in the same exact position and they're the same scale and rotation. So now that we have this in place, we can move left and right and forward and back, and our center position is this plant. Now, on this design, we kept the mirror straight up. On these designs, we flipped the mirror upside down so that we could use the flat edge. So let's take let's do this tall guy right here. Okay, so what we'll need to do is we'll first need to go to the rotation, and we'll need to type in tilde to enter in this field. Make sure you have the right rotation field highlighted, and if you make a mistake, you have to be careful, because if I were to have typed 190 here and I pressed left arrow to fix that 9 into an 8, that arrow has moved my position from rotate to translate. So you have to make sure you are on the right field when you press enter. Otherwise, you will find that you may go through a lot of trouble repositioning things that you've already gone through a lot of trouble positioning. So now that we have everything lined up and we're sure that this is the item we want and that we're in the right field, let's do 180 to turn the item upside down. Now, that bottom there doesn't look very good. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the y-axis and we're going to use Alt. And we're going to slowly drop this into the ground. until it lines up with the very top of that planter. I'd say that's good right there. Alright, and that hides the part that we don't need. It's not so thick that it'll ever poke through ceiling or floor. If it does, you can manipulate the scale. What we're doing here is, now that we've done this, we're going to use Alt to move in really small increments, and we're going to use the K key to move this item backwards. Now, you see a little bit of the basket is poking through, and that's alright. We're going to be able to clean that up in just a moment. But what this is as close as this item can get to our plant without poking through. Now this is going to be our very first side, so we're going to have to get some scaling right. So it looks far too wide for what we're doing. So let's make it, here we go. Alright. So that looks pretty good. So now that we have this in place and this is scaled, this is 1/4 of what we need. So we're going to press C again. We're going to copy the attributes of this mirror. We're going to unlock. We're going to go to our next piece and grab it. We're going to paste our attributes. Now when you're pasting the attributes of an item to the same item, you won't see the second item once it's pasted because they're the exact same. You can do this and other things to make sure that the item is there. If you're not sure, you can just press paste again. If you're really not sure where the item ended up, as long as you still have it locked into place with that yellow lock key, you can press R and it will reset the item to where it was originally built in the world. So let's go ahead and press V and repaste our information. Now rotate, if you hold shift and press up or down 9 times, you will get a perfect 180-degree spin. Now this is really handy for mirroring items that you have already scaled, and much like boxes and planters and things like that, when you just need them flipped and placed somewhere else, this is how you will do it. So we've already got the second one pasted. We're going to shift and press up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. And this is going to give you a perfect flip. And then again, you're going to use Alt and your backup key, which is going to be K, to slowly walk this back to where it covers the entire planter. But you'll notice that a little bit of that basket's going to be out. Alright, now we're going to build, these are going to be squared off. So as you see, the same amount that's poking through here is poking through here. And what we can do is, because this mod will only hit what is closest to you. So for example, the mirror is in front of the plant, so I cannot target the plant. I have to move where it is not in the way, and that is definitely going to play into the nuance of how you build and edit things later. So just understand that if something is covering something, you won't be able to target it. A very important part of this is, if you are ever building near water, if you drop an item below the water line and you no longer have it locked on, like that gold lock goes away, it will be there forever unless you restore to when you were not placing it. And that's because water is a big model itself, and the mod will always hit the collision of the water before the item, so you can see it but you will not be able to break it using disassembly mode, and you will not be able to target it using rotated. So be very careful when building around water, because like I said, if you drop it below the water line, game over. Just go ahead and shut down, rewind it 5 minutes and go back to what you're doing. So be very careful around water. I cannot stress that enough. I'm pretty sure I have a foundation piece somewhere in my world that I'll never be able to get rid of. I bet if you can go through walls with like a ghost mod or something like that, I bet something like that would work. I have not been able to confirm that though. So back to building Alright, so we're going to copy the information of our back piece here. Oh wait, yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's fix this first. Let's make this look nice and clean. Alright, so let's target this house plane here. And let's use Alt, and let's go down to Scale. We're going to bring this in a little bit on both sides. Clean that up. There we go. Just enough to make it look really nice and clean. Alright, let's grab another mirror here. Let's paste our information. Now, we know that this is going to be squared off, so we need a 90-degree turn. To do that, we're going to remove 90 from this number. It'll be very easy. Tilde minus 59.684. Now, this does bring in a nuance. If you look where it says method 2, move by 6 directions, current move type, right now it's on rotate, and that's because I used period in my number. What you have to make sure you do is hit period again until it's back on translate. Otherwise, your J, K, L, I, U, and O keys will do scale or rotate, and you could have to spend a bunch of time repositioning your things again. So definitely get in the habit of making sure that is on translate. If you get into the habit of that early, you'll save yourself a lot of trouble. So now that this has been turned 90 degrees on this item's axis, we know that it's still on the same grid. So we're going to use Alt, and we're going to step this over till it looks nice and centered. Yep, there we go. And that's easier to do because it's on the same grid. And then we're going to walk this back toward us until the basket disappears. Bam, right there. And then we're going to copy that information. We're going to grab another mirror. We're going to paste our information. We're going to hold shift and press up 9 times to flip this copied piece. Shift 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we're going to hold Alt and bring it back again. We're going to do this until the basket disappears. This gives us the same exact positioning on all sides, which gives us a really, really nice woodline effect. Now this is purely aesthetic. Do this any way you want. Do this with anything you want. I'm really just showing you how to use the tool. But all 3 of these planters are made using the same materials and are simply just scaled differently. And this just wasn't turned upside down. You know what I mean? You can, with a little out of the box thinking, you can do really anything you want. For example, because this is squared up so nice, if I were to bring everything out one, all of these outlines would touch each other. And because of that, instead of looking like extra woodwork, they would just be really, really clean looking, like border corners. Let me see here. Make sure. There we go. There we go. And you see, no longer does it have this extra woodwork. It's nice and tight on those corners. So there's many, many things that you can do just with a little bit of here and a little bit of there. Whatever you can think of, you can pretty much do it. There's not a whole lot of limitations. For example, let's move all this back, and I'll show you how I inset carpet on these, like on this guy right here. This is just the same exact thing with carpet inset. I already have those set out, so I'm going to show you those real quick. Let's finish moving all this stuff back into place. There we go. That's even going to give us some borders to work in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy one of our items on the grid that we want to cover, and I'm going to paste all that information onto the carpet. Now the carpet's upside down, and if you're not careful, the rotation can get kind of screwy on items, so I recommend making it as simple as possible. And because I want the orientation to match, I'm going to add 90 to this because I need to move it 90 degrees. So I'm going to change this to 120.316. Because I've used period, I'm going to make sure that I'm back on translate. I'm going to figure out, I don't really keep up with these all the time. I'm going to make sure I figure out which way I need to go. This is going to be positive 90, so I'm going to press tilde. I'm going to put in 90, and that's going to put it straight forward. This is actually the same method I used to make my awesome invisible see-through door here, because carpets don't have collision. And that is how I did that door. Little hidden door over there. So now that we have this in place, what we'll do is we're going to walk it back, and I want the wood trim. There we go. There we go. I want the wood trim, so one more and I'll be all the way through the item. One forward, and I'm covering the surface, but the wood trim is coming through. Let's see if we can get that. You know, you're going to decorate this any way you like. Very Bob Ross style. Any way you like. Happy little carpet. Alright. It is your game. It is your Palworld to build as you see fit. There we go. Then we're going to copy that orientation. I'm going to grab another carpet. We know we need to do the other side, so let's go over here. We're going to do shift and up 9 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we're going to use Alt. There we go. Oh. We're going to use Alt to walk this forward. Here we go. Nice and even. And then we're going to copy that guy. Unlock. Make sure the information in the top left changes to your new item. Lock it. Paste. We know it needs to change 90 degrees. Press period to change it back to translate. We're going to walk this forward. And then we're going to walk it to the side. Here we go. And then we're going to copy all of its attributes. Grab a new item. Paste the attributes. We're going to press shift and up 9 times to spin it. And then we're going to use Alt and our forward button to walk it forward. And bam. That is one pillar done. Now, copying is also very handy, like if you're outlining a doorway or you're doing structural beam pieces and things like that. A shift in 2 moves is 1 foundation square. So from here, if this plant were exactly on the corner of a foundation, that is exactly the size of one square. 2 of these. 1, 2. So if I were to put a beam here, you could shift and move, and as long as the orientation is correct, it would perfectly line up with, say, a doorway or a window or something like that. Do with that what you will. I've only used that trick a couple of times, but it absolutely seems handy to know that you can move within the building's grid that way. That being said, a lot of items, you can copy all of the orientation of, say, a wall, a roof, or a floor, and then paste that onto an item so that you can use it for detailing on walls. I'll explain that later in the advanced video. So for now, what we're going to do is we're going to replicate this cool little planner over here, and I'm going to show you how easy it is once you've built something to kind of copy it. There's no actual copy entire function. You're going to have all of the materials that you know that your little build needs, but you can copy and paste a lot of what you need. So we're going to copy this guy. We're going to start by, see, we cannot get to the house paint. I mean, we could get to the house paint from down, but for intents and purposes, we're not going to. We're going to pull the side off. So you grab your side piece, walk it off like this, just so that you can get to your house plant. Let's copy our house plant. See, this is what happens when you press V instead of C. I pasted the information of the carpet onto this plant. So now I've got to hit R and reset it. But I just happen to know that I put these at a 0.8, so it's not that big of a deal. But you see how C and V being very close to each other could potentially be a problem. So, on our house plant, we're going to press C this time. See, all of our information just updated. Let's grab our house plant over here. Paste. And now we're going to use Shift, Move, Move. Alright, that was Shift and J, and then Shift and J. And you can literally do this for all of the other pieces. So, let's grab this antique mirror right here, copy its orientation, grab a mirror, paste it, Shift, see, not J, because of that orientation, this one's going to be K. So Shift, K, K. And we're going to grab this one across from it, and then paste. There we go. We're going to Shift, Move, Move. We're going to do the same thing for these side pieces. Now this one's going to need to be stepped forward when we're done, but we already know that, so not a big problem. Let's paste that information. There we go. Now let's walk that forward. And then we'll fix this one and walk this one forward. And now you have a duplicate, and that is the exact width of a wall piece or a doorway piece. So you could put these right outside, either side of a doorway, make them look really nice and neat, exactly perfect on both sides. And this is simply 4 antique mirrors in a house plant. But you can see you can do a lot of different things with a very few things, just thinking outside the box a little bit. This doesn't take up a lot of space, not a lot of trouble, and once you get into the hang of this, this actually only takes about a minute or less. Though the hardest part you'll find is finding surface area to build all these mirrors with. I will admit the mirrors are my #1 most used item at the moment, but I have been working on a new base to showcase for about 2 weeks or so, and that'll be in an upcoming video. I'll be showing that. So far we built us a nice post. We covered that in carpet. I showed you how to do that. I showed you how to replicate one of these little guys. And if you have any questions or requests, feel free to drop those. I plan on doing more tutorial videos. This is just going to be a hopping off point. I wanted to show people how to use the mod, what you can do with the mod, and if there's anything anybody would like, more clarification on, I will be happy to help. Thank you for joining me here on Palworld Mod Building. God bless you guys and take care.